Imagine you're rushing through an airport, lost in your own world. When 14
Now
K9
boarding
dogs
flight
suddenly
711
break
at gate
formation
15.
and surround a little girl clutching
Wow, look
a
how
battered
gentle they are
stuffed
with her.
fox.
It's all right,
Chaos
easy now. Just let me
erupts,
take the toy.
alarms, shouts,
Sarah!
fear
Baby,
slicing
right here.
through every
Let her go.
heartbeat. But in that storm, something unimaginable is about to happen. A secret buried deep in innocence. A family hunted by the kind of revenge that hides in your own shadows. And a team of heroes nobody saw coming. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll witness a twist so powerful, so raw, it might just restore your faith in miracles. And the truth that always defeats darkness. What really happened that day will change how you see courage, loyalty, even the world itself. Watch closely, because this story is more than legend. It's proof that every second counts. And the biggest reward is right at the end. 14 dogs, 1 girl, and a boarding gate. Northbridge International kicked off the morning like any major airport. Sunlight streaking across the concourse, announcements glitching over the loudspeakers in 3 languages, and the crowd locked in the choreography of travel. Travelers rushed past the windows, coffee-fueled and half-awake. Passports clenched with the same sticky hope that all would, for once, go as planned. Near gate 17. An irate businessman fumbled at the ticketing kiosk, swearing at a blinking red light, while a teenager took selfies by the vending machine. Amid this symphony of ordinary, Officer Ethan Cole and his K9 unit carved a line of authority, their boots and paws echoing sharper than any departure signal. Ethan's crew moved in perfect sync. 14 dogs, coda out front, nose to ground, tails up, muscle memory drilled deep. Coda, Ethan's right hand, threw nervous glances over his shoulder, snout twitching. The veteran handler caught that signal. He always watched Coda for signs that truth was clawing through the silence. Because revenge and its shadows rarely announce themselves with flair, they slip in as an off-note, a suspicious glance, a child left standing alone. A jittery radio transmission cut across the calm, hinting at minor delays due to increased security. Someone muttered about bomb threats. Ethan gripped the leash a little tighter. The air buzzed not just with static, but with suspicion. A little girl, alone beside gate 17, stood out like a single note in an off-key song. Mia Harper, barely 4, hugged a battered fox plush so tight that the stuffing peeked through stitches. Her eyes tracked every passing adult. Most travelers didn't notice her at all. Some gave her wide berth, sensing trouble. Revenge works quietly, Ethan thought. Shadows creep, but truth always finds its way in broad daylight when somebody pays attention. The K9 team hesitated. Coda's ears perked. Ethan decided it was time to break what looked like routine. He knelt, level with Mia. "Missing a one?" Ethan asked, soft but direct. Mia said nothing, just pressed her fox closer. The plush smelled of cinnamon and something faintly metallic. Meanwhile, behind Ethan, a janitor argued with a supervisor about a mop. Someone dropped a phone, the smack echoing under the full ceiling. Reality was all broken pieces. Coda leaned forward, nose twitching at the toy. The rest of the dogs followed suit, eyes locked on the fox, the crowd, and the girl. This was not standard operating procedure, and Ethan felt every protocol thrum between his ribs. Suddenly, a family spilled out of a cafe, laughter spiking, then fading. One of Ethan's fellow officers thumbed his radio. "Cole, is everything all right?" Ethan gave the Alkir, but his gut twisted. Coda Winder high-pitched note of tension. The handler offered Mia a gentle smile. "Your friend looks brave," he tried. Mia nodded, voice barely a whisper. "Daddy gave him to me. He said the fox keeps away bad dreams." For a second, Ethan caught a flash. Not terror, but the raw uncertainty kids show when their world slips out from under them. Revenge, your shadows, they chase innocence. Truth tries to stitch it back together, one thread at a time. A woman with too many shopping bags brushed past, grumbling under her breath. At that moment, two tourists filming everything paused, curiosity hooked by the circle of dogs forming near Mia. Ethan threw them a quick glance. No need to alarm anyone yet. The veteran officer knew that every move was recorded, sometimes watched by millions who didn't know how close the airport was to disaster. When truth and revenge clash, your shadows find an audience. In airports, a viral video lingers longer than any news headline. If this day was headed for chaos, at least he'd make sure truth was the winning side. The truth always defeats the shadows. As Ethan tried to redirect the scene, a loudspeaker glitched attention. Final boarding call for Flight 2207. Panic flickered in the crowd. Coda barked once, short and sharp. The rest of the K9 unit tensed, straining on their leashes, forming an accidental barrier around Mira. Travelers stopped. Phones rose in shaky hands. The sense of routine teetered on a knife edge. One wrong move, one missed clue, and revenge would use your shadows for cover. In these moments, Ethan trusted the dogs more than any metal detector. They didn't care about headlines. They cared about the truth beneath appearances. Ethan's partner, a rookie with nerves of spaghetti, whispered, "We need backup." Ethan shook his head, eyes fixed on the plush fox, the girl, and the forming circle. No sudden moves. Trust the team. Coda circled, nose brushing against Mia's wrist. Mia flinched, but the dog just sat beside her, a silent promise. The entire terminal felt the change, the ordinary now filled with meaning. Travelers stared, some concerns, some recording, some posting live to their friends. Moments like this were rare. Truth fighting for space against revenge and your shadows. Ethan relied on instinct forged from years of mistakes, and a faith that dogs can see what humans refuse to. The janitor dropped a mop with a clatter so loud that Mia nearly cried out. Ethan reached to steady her, mindful never to touch without permission. The airport's chaos narrowed down to a circle. One child, 14 dogs, and every eye in the building. Revenge lingered, but truth pressed forward. Coda stared past Mia, scanning the plush fox as if reading secrets only he could find. The rookie watched with awe, taking mental notes for a future he hoped would be longer than this shift. Routine was gone. Every passenger sensed it. Mia looked up at Ethan, finally willing to trust him. Coda let out a low, friendly growl, sort of sound dogs use to warn of something you can see but ought to fear. Ethan remembered an old saying, "Dogs are honest. They don't have patience for shadows." He tried to reassure the rookie, reminding him that sometimes, in the pursuit of truth, it's enough just to stand firm. The shadows can circle all they want, but the truth always finds a breach. Security moved in, slow and steady, but Ethan waved them back. "Not yet," he said, hand hovering over his badge. "Let the dogs do their job." Mia stood perfectly still as Coda nudged the plush fox again. One of the other handlers whispered to Ethan, "They're acting strange. Should we evacuate?" For the briefest moment, Ethan debated Code Red closing the gate, ordering the crowd out. But he watched Coda, whose nose kept signaling at the toy. "Wait for the scan, and if you have a second, tell your friends about what's happening here." Sometimes sharing the ordinary can become a testimony for the extraordinary. Through the terminal's glass, the morning sun swung higher, painting new shadows on the marble. Revenge worked best in confusion. The only real defense is attention, patience, and dogs who know how to read a scene. Ethan took a breath, hoping that the truth will unpredictable and often ignored woodland before anyone got hurt. That's how these stories begin. A warning missed, a child overlooked, a routine broken by bravery. And if you find this moment as tense as Ethan does, maybe leave a like. Sometimes all it takes is one sign to know you're part of something bigger. The day at Northbridge International seemed to unfold like any other. Ethan Cole, a stickler for ritual, gathered his K9 unit in a private side room just before sunrise. The crisp buzz of coffee machines providing a soundtrack to their briefing. Eyes open, he reminded the crew, as the dogs settled in by specialty, some primed for explosives, others expert at narcotics or electronics, the subtle undercurrent of routine filled the air. Ethan recited the plan, a sweep of VIP arriving soon, and 1,000 invisible details needing attention. Every handler with a dog knew discipline was their greatest weapon. But inside the silence, the question hung there like a forgotten announcement. What if revenge is already moving in your shadows before you even notice? Coda, always the most disciplined, wasn't himself that morning. Instead of calm readiness, there was agitation, ears pinned, posture uncertain. Ethan clocked it instantly, trading silent glances with the other handlers. You learn fast in this game. When the alpha starts acting strange, don't ignore the signs. One rookie handler cracked a joke to ease nerves, but none of the veterans laughed. Instead, they all followed Corder's lead, casting wary looks down the hallway and over their shoulders. Solitude breeds suspicion. Shadows have a way of flipping in when you're too focused on the checklist. It's easy to believe in the truth of protocols, but it never hurts to scan the crowd for faces that linger a little too long by the restricted doors. As the unit moved out a line of fur, muscle, and intent, they blended seamlessly with the morning chaos. Passengers shuffled past, some nodding respectfully, others avoiding eye contact entirely. Ethan's partner returned from a check at the perimeter, shaking his head. All clear, but the air felt heavier, and Ethan trusted his instincts. The truth doesn't care about the clock or the calendar. It crashes in when least expected, like turbulence after a smooth climb. That day, everything felt slightly tilted. The bag with the broken zipper, the nervous maintenance man, the way the radio caught and stiffed as Ethan called in his position. Revenge doesn't use a megaphone. It prefers the sly echo at the edges of routine. Coda's agitation grew as they passed a vendor arranging pastries to perfectly. The dog's behavior floated through the ranks now. 2 other dogs mirrored his twitching noses to ground, tails vibrating with worry. Their restlessness wasn't chaos, but the precise warning any handler prays they'll never see, a foreshadowing that revenge, truth, and your shadows are colliding right in front of you. "Let's double up," Ethan ordered, splitting the team, reviewing schedules, and repositioning units by the main security gate. The baggage carousel thumped, and word, a soundtrack of the everyday masking threats woven into its rhythm. Passengers barely noticed the changes, but one older woman in a red coat paused. "Is something wrong?" Ethan smiled, gentle but evasing. "Everything's fine, ma'am. Just routine." Outside, the first wave of VIP security swept past, briefcases swinging, eyes scanning. Ethan exchanged nods with colleagues who understood the stakes. In these moments, the world relies on the discipline of people and animals trained to see beyond the obvious. Truth wins against shadows not by accident, but by relentless preparation. Ethan, however, knew that today's suspense would only deepen. There is comfort in discipline, but there is wisdom in heeding intuition. Before the day's stories unravel, one small act of engagement goes a long way. Share how discipline and intuition protect what matters most. And keep your circle sharp. Ethan crouched beside Mira, mindful of the crowd, watching every breath, every gesture. His uniform pressed against his knees, and somewhere behind him a flight announcement blared over tired speakers. The girl stood frozen, clutching her battered fox plush, her small fingers buried so deep into the toy S-worn fabric that it looked like part of her body. Ethan kept his voice low, warmer technique, learned over years of calming panicked travelers and lost children. "Hey, sweetheart, are you waiting for someone?" Mia's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her eyes, wide and glassy, tracked the terminal's motion without really seeing it. Shock has a signature, silence wrapped around fear, and Ethan recognized it instantly. Truth hides in the spaces between words, and revenge lurks in the moments we dismiss as nothing. The fox itself told a story. Its orange and white fur had faded to sepia tones in patches. stitching frayed at the seams. One button I hanging by a thread. It smelled faintly of cinnamon and something sharper metallic, almost medicinal, that Ethan couldn't place. The toy had clearly traveled far, been held through tears and nightmares, become the anchor for a child whose world had tilted off axis. Mia pressed it against her chest as if shielding it from invisible hands. Ethan noticed a small embroidered tag near the tail. For Mia, love always Dad. The handwriting, faded but careful, suggested a gift chosen with intention. Around them, travelers rushed past, blind to the small drama unfolding. Revenge works best when people are too busy to notice. Your shadows thrive in the distraction. Coda stepped closer, lowering his head until his nose hovered inches from Mia's hand. The dog's amber eyes locked onto the girl first, then shifted to the plush fox, then scanned the crowded terminal as if calculating invisible trajectories. His body language changed, no longer the disciplined formation dog, but a guardian sensing a threat only he could define. Ethan watched, silent, trusting the animal's instinct over any protocol manual. Dogs don't lie. They don't perform for approval. When Coda stared, it meant something real was unfolding beneath the surface noise. The girl finally looked up, meeting Coda's gaze. For a heartbeat. The connection held human and animal, both searching for truth in a world full of shadows. One by one, the other dogs began to shift. Thor, a bulky Malinois trained for explosives, turned his head toward Mira. Luna, a sleek German shepherd specializing in narcotics, broke formation and edged closer. Then Bella, then Axel, then the rest, all 14 dogs, slowly redirecting their focus to the silent girl and her fox. The handlers exchanged uneasy glances, hands tightening on leashes. This wasn't part of the plan. Ethan's radio crackled. Cole, status. He pressed the button, keeping his eyes on Coda. Stand by. Dogs are alerting. No visible threat yet. The reply came tense. Copy. Keep us informed. Revenge doesn't announce itself with sirens. It slips in through the cracks, and truth must work twice as hard to catch up. The air in the terminal grew heavier. Passengers slowed their pace, sensing something off, even if they couldn't name it. A businessman adjusted his tie nervously. A mother pulled her toddler closer. The janitor, forgotten in the background, stopped mopping and stared. Mere silence became the loudest thing in the room. Ethan tried again, softer this time. Mia, is that your name? That's a beautiful name. Where's your mom or dad? The girl's mouth trembled. Daddy's gone, she whispered, so quiet Ethan had to lean in. And Mummy, she was just here. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading outward. Gone just here. The language of loss is always incomplete, and the shadows that follow loss are where revenge finds its home. Coda's posture shifted again as forward, muscles coiled, eyes fixed not on Mira anymore, but on the fox plush. Ethan noticed the dog's nostrils flaring, working overtime, processing scents invisible to human perception. The veteran handler had seen this before. A dog detecting something foreign, something wrong, something hidden inside an object that appeared harmless. He gestured to his partner, a younger officer named Davis. "Get the scanner. Portable unit now." Davis nodded and jogged toward the equipment cart. Meanwhile, the circle of dogs tightened round Mia, not threatening, but protective, a living barrier between the child and whatever danger they sensed approaching. Truth doesn't always come with evidence you can hold. Sometimes it arrives through instinct you can't ignore. The crowd's murmur grew, phones lifted, cameras recording. Ethan knew this scene would hit social media within minutes, speculation running wild. He raised a hand, signaling calm to the onlookers. "Everyone, please give us space. This is routine, but nothing about this felt routine." Mia, still clutching the fox, looked up at Coda with something close to trust. The dog lowered his head again, this time gently nudging her hand with his nose, a gesture that said, "I'm here, you're safe." Ethan marveled at the quiet communication between species, the way truth bypassed language and spoke directly to the heart. If you've ever witnessed a moment like this, where courage and instinct align, drop a comment. These stories matter because they remind us that even in chaos, truth finds a way to stand against your shadows. Davis returned with the scanner, a compact device used to detect metals and electronics hidden in luggage or clothing. Ethan took it, then knelt again beside Mia. "Sweetheart, can I look at your fox for just a second? I promise I'll give him right back." Mia hesitated, her grip tightening. Coda sat beside her, a silent vote of confidence. Finally, slowly, she extended the toy toward Ethan. His fingers brushed the worn fabric, feeling the lumps and shapes beneath. The scanner hovered over the plush. It beat once, then twice. Then a steady, insistent tone that made every handler in earshot freeze. Ethan's blood ran cold. Inside that innocent toy, something metallic hummed the core that didn't belong. Revenge had hidden itself in plain sight, wrapped in cinnamon and love. And only the truth, relentless, patient, and guided by a dog's nose, had found it. The scanner's beep cut through the terminal like a blade. Ethan's hand hovered over the fox plush, his mind racing through protocols, threats, and 1,000 ways this could go sideways. Around him, the K9 unit sensed the shift, muscles tense, ears swiveled, breathing synchronized in that eerie way trained dogs have when danger crystallizes from suspicion into certainty. Mia looked up at Ethan, confusion clouding her small face, unaware that the toy she clung to for comfort now held the attention of every handler in the concourse. The crowd pressed closer, curiosity overriding caution, phones raised like digital witnesses. Revenge doesn't wear a mask in airports. It hides in plain sight, tucked inside innocence, waiting for truth to stumble or look away. Coda's bark shattered the moment. It was onto the playful yip of a dog at rest, or the warning growl of a threat detected was a command, sharp and absolute, a sound that said, "Now." Before Ethan could react, Coda lunged forward, not at Mia, but around her, positioning his body between the girl and the open terminal. Then Thor moved, then Luna, then Axel, Bella, Odin, and the rest of 14 dogs, breaking formation in a synchronized rush that looked choreographed, but was pure instinct. They circled Mira in a tight ring, noses out, tails high, forming a living barrier that no human protocol could have planned. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. A mother yanked her child backward, certain she was witnessing an attack. Ethan's radio exploded with chatter. "Cole, what the hell is happening? Dogs are loose. Get them back in formation." But Ethan stood frozen, watching the circle tighten, watching Coder's eyes scan the terminal with laser focus, watching the way the dogs positioned themselves not as predators, but as guardians. This wasn't aggression. This was protection. The realization hit him like cold water. The dogs were unresponding to the scanner speed. They were responding to a threat. Ethan couldn't see yet. Truth doesn't always arrive with clarity. Sometimes it shows up as chaos, and you have to trust the chaos long enough to understand it. Revenge, lurking in your shadows, had miscalculated, hadn't counted on 14 sets of trained instincts working as one. "Everyone, stay calm," Ethan shouted, projecting authority over the rising panic. His partner Davis moved to intercept the crowd, arms spread wide. "Please step back. This is a controlled security operation." But controlled was a generous word. Passengers scrambled, some retreating toward the gates, others pressing forward with morbid fascination. An elderly man clutched his chest, hyperventilating. A teenager filmed everything, narrating breathlessly for his followers. The janitor dropped his mop and ran. In the chaos, Mia stood perfectly still at the center of the circle, her fox plush pressed against her heart, surrounded by fur and muscle and unwavering loyalty. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She was watching Coda, and Coda was watching something just beyond the crowd. Ethan followed the dog's gaze. At first, nothing stood out, just the usual churn of travelers, the flicker of departure boards, the hum of conveyor belts. Then he saw it, a man in a maintenance uniform, standing too still. Eyes locked, not on the commotion, but on Mia. His hands were empty, posture casual, but his focus betrayed him. Ethan's instincts flared. Maintenance workers don't freeze during emergencies. They respond, they move, they help. This man was watching, waiting, calculating. The truth always leaves fingerprints, even when it tries to blend in. Ethan keyed his radio, voice low and urgent. "Davis, maintenance guy, 3 o'clock, blue coveralls. Eyes on him now." Davis shifted, subtly repositioning to block the man's line of sight. The man noticed, hesitated, then turned and walked briskly toward the service corridor. Too fast, too deliberate. Ethan's pulse spiked. "Shatter him, but don't engage yet." He turned back to Mia, kneeling inside the circle of dogs, all of whom remained locked in position. "Mia, sweetheart, I need you to stay right here with Coda, okay?" He's going to keep you safe." The girl nodded, small and trusting, her hand resting on Koda's broad back. The dog didn't move, didn't flinch, his entire being dedicated to the task of protection. Revenge had tried to hide in shadows, but truth stubborn, relentless truth had found a champion in fur and forepaws. The crowd's panic began to ebb as handlers spread out, creating a perimeter, reassuring passengers with calm voices and steady hands. "It's okay, the dogs are trained. Please give them space." But Ethan knew the situation was far from stable. The scanner had confirmed a metallic core inside the plush fox. The man in maintenance coveralls was fleeing, and Mia, alone and silent, was at the center of something much larger than a lost child at a gate. Ethan's mind raced through scenarios: smuggling, espionage, ransom, trafficking. None of them good, all of them requiring the kind of truth that cut through assumptions and demanded action. The truth always defeats the shadows, but only if you're willing to chase it into the dark. Another bark from Kodo, this one different, a signal Ethan recognized from drills. Secondary threat detected. The handler's blood went cold. Secondary meant more than one vector, more than one danger. He scanned the terminal again, this time looking not for people, but for objects. Bags left unattended, boxes stacked oddly. Anything out of place. His eyes landed on a black duffel near the window, half hidden behind a pillar. No tag, no owner nearby. Just sitting there, zipped tight, while travelers flowed around it like water around a stone. Ethan's gut twisted. Davis duffel bag, northwest corner, black, no owner. Get the bomb unit, now. The terminal's energy shifted again, this time from panic to dread. Bomb. The word spread in whispers, then shouts, then a stampede as passengers bolted for exits. Security struggled to maintain order, voices crackling over intercoms. Please remain calm. Do not run. Follow the lighted pathways. But fear is contagious, and once it takes hold, protocols crumble. Ethan stayed rooted, one hand on Koda, the other on his radio, coordinating the chaos while the circle of dogs held firm around Mia. This was the moment revenge had engineered distraction. Confusion, shadows thick enough to hide a dozen sins. But truth, armed with instinct and loyalty, refused to blink. Koda's eyes never left Mia. Around them, the other dogs held the line, a fortress of fur against the unknown. Ethan knew that in minutes, specialists would arrive, equipment would deploy, and the machinery of response would take over. But right now, in this heartbeat of uncertainty, it was just him, 14 dogs, and a little girl whose plush fox held secrets that could shatter lives. If you've ever seen courage hold the line when everything falls apart, hit that subscribe button. The security team's radios screamed as terminal sirens began their mechanical wail. Red lights pulsed atop signs for partial evacuation, voices echoing down halls with news of an incident. Please remain calm. Ethan's thoughts raced as the bomb squad closed in on the unattended duffel. Every passenger's eyes darted toward exits, attention thick as airport fog. But the tight ring of K9 South around Mia held strong, defying the chaos. Koda and his crew didn't flinch, their presence reinforcing that even when revenge plots in your shadows, truth refuses to run. In the heart of uncertainty, the dogs' focus suddenly shifted. Their gazes left the crowd and landed on Mia's fox plush, now cradled tight against her chest, eyes wide with trust. Ethan crouched, doing his best to keep adrenaline disguised as calm. "Mia, sweetheart, I need to take a quick look at your fox. Just for a moment, your friend will come right back to you." She hesitated, but the urgency in his voice, softened with years of experience, persuaded her to open her grip. The plush, once a comfort, now looked accused. The center of a drama only the bravest trainers and the most loyal dogs could unravel. Revenge rarely expects innocence to be its undoing. Ethan ran the scanner across the plush. The device whined, then beeped, lighting up for a non-standard metallic core. A crowd gathered, equal parts anxious and curious, conversation bubbling with wild speculation. Ethan held the fox in both hands, testing scenes, feeling the density, noting every anomaly. Mia watched, clinging to Koda's neck, her eyes darting between the officer and her friends. Every second stretched, drawing a line between danger and safety, between truth and your lingering shadows. As the tension peaked, a new sound erupted, Nimeli's voice, high and desperate, slicing through the noise. "Mia, Mia." Ethan whipped around. The woman ran through the half-evacuated terminal, nearly tackled by security. He stepped forward, badge displayed, waving for the guards to let her pass. Emily's face was streaked with tears, her hands trembling as she scooped Mia into a fierce hug. "Are you hurt? Where have you been?" Ethan introduced himself quickly, keeping one eye on the fox plush. The reunion brought relief, but didn't dissolve the tension truth demands process, not miracles, and revenge leaves a wake that doesn't fade with a single embrace. A private room was hastily arranged. Ethan, Emily, Mia, and the plush fox, now suspicious, sat around a table while a technician swapped out the handheld scanner for the full-spectrum analysis kits. Emily's story unfolded. Her daughter snatched from the restroom moments before, a stranger vanishing into a crowd. The fox plush always at Mia's side, a thread meant to anchor but maybe prepared for darker purposes. The technician's device blinked green, yellow, then red. "This isn't explosive," he declared, voice tight, "but it's something, a transmitter, military grade." The truth, gritty and complex, had wormed its way into the symbol of innocence. Ethan turned to Emily. "Your husband, does he work somewhere sensitive?" Emily nodded, eyes weary, voice barely above a whisper. "Lucas Harper, he was investigating breaches. We've been followed for weeks." Outside, the bomb unit neutralized the duffel, confirming explosives. The threat had doubled, two shadows chasing one truth. Mira's tiny voice cut through the heavy air. Daddy said the fox protects me. Ethan gripped the edge of the table. Sometimes revenge disguises itself so well that only a child's faith lets the truth force its way forward. The evacuation slowly wound down as the bomb threat was lifted, but the sense of alarm lingered. Agents moved through the crowd, searching for the maintenance worker, retracing steps, piecing together a map of shadows and intentions. The dogs remained close, no longer a barrier, but a shield for what mattered most. Mia sat in Emily's lap, cradling her fox once again, both mother and daughter etched by the ordeal, but now part of something bigger story in which, thanks to unwavering instinct and a refusal to surrender to fear, the truth always defeats the shadows. If crisis narratives like this make you rethink what protection really means, share this story. Sometimes your shadows only fade when someone else knows what's at stake. The air inside the improvised security room hung thick with suspense. Emily Harper clung to Mia as if her arms alone could shield her daughter from every revengeful shadow waiting in the world outside. Ethan watched the reunion, his own nerves bristling with questions. "Emily, what exactly happened?" His voice carried the urgency of a man who'd seen truth twist and turn in countless forms. Emily's tears stained her cheeks, but her focus was furious. She recounted how Mia had vanished from a restroom, security slow to react, panic rising with each minute lost. "I was screaming for help. No one came. When I saw the dogs and you, I knew we weren't alone anymore." Truth and instinct had brought her this far. Now Ethan needed the details only a mother on the edge could reveal. Emily's story began to unravel the day's mysteries. Her husband, Dr. Lucas Harper, wasn't just another absent parent. He was a key engineer in cyber defense, working on a classified project that had drawn unwanted attention. "He's been missing for weeks," Emily confessed, her voice trembling. After finding evidence of a breach, Lucas disappeared. Mia and we started moving hotel to hotel. I saw people watching us at airports, in cars, even in lobbies. It was like revenge took on a human face. The revelation chilled Ethan. His instincts confirmed what the dogs had felt since dawn. Truth isn't just about facts, it's about patterns, the slow encroachment of danger that only comes together when each piece is in place. For Mia, every safe moment had been a fragile illusion. She clung to her mother, the fox plush now sitting untouched on the table as technicians probed its seams for electronics. The girl didn't cry, but her thumb found the tag for Mia. "Love always Dad," and traced the words again and again. Emily's vulnerability became her resolve. "I don't care about money or secrets or even staying hidden anymore. I just want my daughter safe." Ethan nodded, understanding the unspoken bargain. When revenge targets family, truth is what you fight for no matter the cost, no matter the shadows. A technician called out, "It's not a bomb, but a transmitter." Someone installed a module that's relaying coordinates real-time. Ethan leaned in, heart pounding. Can you tell if it's sending any other info? The answer came in encrypted packets, moving data through hidden channels. It was espionage, clear as day. Mia and Emily were being used as unwitting nodes in a larger scheme, collateral for someone else's secrets. The dogs, always restless, now pressed against the door, ears twitching at each hallway footstep. In the landscape of danger, only relentless vigilance keeps revenge from slipping through the cracks. Emily, desperate for any clue, mentioned a friendly technician from an earlier airport who offered to repair the Fox S stitching for free. Ethan's mind turned. Someone inside the system had exploited their fear, planting hardware with a smile. Can you describe the man? Emily fumbled for details. A badge she couldn't read, nervous hands, eyes that didn't match the smile. These fragments pieced into the profile of an insider, someone manipulating revenge through your shadows while hiding in open view. The chase was on. Ethan alerted his network, searching manifests and security feeds for faces matching Emily's description. Outside, the last echoes of panic faded, but Ethan knew this was only the beginning. Family reunions, secret transmitters, and the silent campaign of threats, they all pointed to a wider plot ready to unravel. If you've ever faced impossible odds for someone you love, or hunted truth through layers of deception, drop a comment. These are the stories that build bridges, not just between hearts, but across every shadow revenge ever dared leave behind. Ethan and the technicians gathered around the examination table, all eyes on the battered Fox plush. Every rip in the fabric, each faded stitch, was now a possible line in a coder's secret message, hidden in plain sight. The head technician sliced open a seam with surgical precision. Wires gleamed where there should have been only stuffing. Metal, microchips, and a miniature antenna revealed themselves, glowing under the harsh overhead lights. The silence in the room was profound. For Mia, this was no ordinary toy. For Ethan, it was proof that revenge never sleeps, and truth always fights through shadows. Emily watched, horrified, as the specialists detached the embedded device. It's sending bursts every few minutes, one technician noted, pointing to a tiny blinking LED coordinates, data packets, encrypted strings. Very advanced. Ethan's mind raced. This wasn't an amateur operation. He reviewed every step Emily and Mia had taken that week. Every airport hallway, every stranger who had brushed past with a smile. Within the plush, someone had transformed childhood comfort into a tool for espionage. Revenge picks its battleground, but truth wins where love refuses to yield. The team rushed the device to a secure scanner, uploading the most recent transmission logs. Ethan relayed the discovery to Homeland Security. Mia's toy was a relay military-grade tech, piggybacking off airport signals. Agent Machines responded, his voice tight. This isn't isolated. We've seen this before. Ethan frowned. The pattern was always the same, innocent-looking objects. Families targeted for their connections. transmitters hidden by someone with access to clearance. We need airport surveillance on everyone who had proximity to the child or the plush, Ethan ordered. Revenge, in your shadows, had underestimated the power of united investigation and relentless pursuit of truth. Emily's nerves were frayed. I never thought a gift would turn dangerous. Ethan squeezed her shoulder. Sometimes the truth hides in the things we cherish most. The real test is refusing to let the shadows win. Meanwhile, a technician flagged a critical detail. The last transmission had originated just before Emily found Mia missing. Someone key is still watching, he warned. Ethan mobilized the handlers. Dog teams canvassed the terminal for discarded wires or matching signals, while analysts cross-referenced flight records and maintenance logs. Each clue layered more tension. The net was closing, but would it catch its target before revenge struck again? Mia, quiet in the corner, hugged her now empty plush. "Will Daddy come home?" she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her. "We're going to find out, Mia. And until then, these dogs, everyone will protect you." The message was clear, not just to Mia, but to every handler in the room. Truth demands vigilance, but it also asks for hope. If you've ever wanted to look deeper into what's real, if you've sensed that comfort can sometimes be a shield for danger, let us know by dropping a share. Together, we can pull light through even the darkest parts of your shadows. Outside the security room, Coda's ears sharpened at something the humans hadn't noticed, yet a low rumble on the tarmac, a van idling just beyond the perimeter fence. Ethan's phone buzzed with alerts from airport surveillance. Suspicious vehicle stationary near South Gate. He exchanged a tight glance with Davis and the bomb squad team. In stories like these, revenge works in layers, and your shadows never travel alone. The truth was unraveling, but new dangers were threading in just as fast. Ethan led the dog team onto the concourse, eyes alert for movement. Security cameras tracked a black van, windows opaque, plates sheared off. Coder pressed against the glass. Muscles rippling the body language every handler knew from drills. Threats not imminent, but building. The other K9 South fanned out with their trainers, scanning crowds and luggage. Meanwhile, inside the terminal, Thor's handler called in a find, a maintenance bag, left beside a row of vending machines, emitting faint traces of explosive residue. When truth exposes one plot, revenge always tests for another. Aquat operations scrambled. Evacuate this section now. An automated voice pulsed through the speakers. Ethan broke protocol, splitting the team half-tracked, the van as it rolled slowly along the fence. Half converged on the forbidden bag. Passengers spilled into safe zones, crowds streaming in brief pockets of panic that looked eerily choreographed against the backdrop of silent K9 South at work. Davis coordinated with bomb technicians, moving quickly but with resolution. No one dared dismiss the sense that those who chase revenge love hiding in your shadows, setting distractions to mask their true intentions. Koda barked, sudden and decisive. The van sped up, tires spinning in a cloud of dust as it tore for the exit. Ethan radioed, code red. Perimeter pursuit, South Gate. All units intercept. He leaped into a cruiser, Koda at his side, and sped onto the airstrip access roads. Choppers rose, lights flashed. The chase was now more than an exercise. Revenge had made its move. Meanwhile, back in the terminal, the bomb unit approached the bag and found wires, clay, and a crude timer enough to threaten hundreds if not for the rapid clarity of the dogs. The truth always defeats the shadows, but only if you're ready to face every layer. The van fight was savage. Spike strips unfurled at the runway's edge, screeching tires veering, the black vehicle swerving before being boxed by police, K9 units, and armed airport security. The standoff lasted seconds before suspects bolted two men, lean and fast. Chased down by Thor and Bella, the dogs subdued them with a disciplined ferocity that left bystanders speechless. Inside the van, evidence abounded: passports, encrypted discs, and photos of Emily, Mia, X, and Lucas in airports and hotels across continents. Revenge never moves alone. It collects details, stalks, and builds case files in shadows before showing its teeth. Back in the terminal, bomb techs neutralized the bag. The media crowd gathered, and families hugged in relief. Ethan reviewed the evidence, scanning each photograph, searching for new faces and patterns. Emily, reunited with Mia, wept at the scope of surveillance. They were watching us everywhere. Ethan nodded. In this line of work, truth is relentless. It keeps hunting, even when you think the story's safe. The dogs lapping water and waiting for the next command were as much heroes as any badge-wearing officer. Revenge planned for secrecy, but it never planned on loyalty this fierce. Koda curled around Mia. Sensing her lingering fear, the other dogs assembled by their handlers, disciplined but wary for what might still hid inside the terminal's routine. Ethan paced, connecting dots, planning the next interrogations with airport intelligence and federal teams. Surveillance footage traced the maintenance man from earlier to the van's driver's seat, confirming the inside job. If you ever wondered how deep plots go or how entrenched revenge can get in your shadows, comment below with what you think the next threat could be. Every story teaches us vigilance wins, but only when we stand shoulder to shoulder, dog and human, truth against revenge. The black van's escape attempt kicked off chaos on the airstrip. Alarm klaxons shrieked. Ethan, adrenaline surging, steered his cruiser alongside Koda, the shepherd rigid with focus. The airport was no longer a place of routine, had become a battleground between truth and revenge, playing out in plain sight as shadows shifted in every direction. Helicopters thudded overhead, spotlights sweeping the tarmac, radios crackling with urgent codes. Lines of police vehicles fanned out, turning the airfield into a chessboard of flashing lights and screeching tires. The chase itself was cinematic. Ethan, weaving between slow-moving fuel trucks and waiting jets, Koda's nose pressed against the window, tracking every shift of the van's desperate maneuvering. Officers barked commands as spike strips snapped across the asphalt. The van swerved, tires shredding. The suspect bolted, sprinting toward the outer fence. Thor broke from his handler at the correct cue, muscle and training merging as he vaulted over a luggage cart, pinning one suspect with a controlled bite. The rest of the dogs followed suit, supporting handlers and circling until the last threat was contained. Revenge always runs, but the truth gives chase with total loyalty. Inside the van, Ethan's team dug through evidence, encrypted hard drives, international passports, and maps traced with coded routes. Photos of Emily, Mia, and Lucas showed they'd been followed across continents, proofs of a network that never sleeps. Revenge roams along your shadows. But the dogs had cornered and mapped the enemy in broad daylight. A Bontech confirmed the van was wired with a weak secondary explosive desperate, poorly made but dangerous in the wrong hands. Ethan called in backup to secure the scene and mark each clue for forensic teams. The chase spilled onto airport social media feeds. Passengers filmed from windows, narrating breathlessly as dogs subdued suspects and armed teams closed the perimeter. Ethan fielded calls from media and federal teams, deflecting bombastic praise to focus on the mission. Coda and Thor checked each suspect, noses reading both sweat and fear. Reminder that truth doesn't just catch criminals, it cuts through every feint and distraction revenge can muster. "You sure you want the dogs in the highlight reel?" asked a senior agent. Ethan shook his head. "Let them be heroes without spotlights." Meanwhile, Emily and Mia were secured in a safe room, watched over by Luna and Bella. Comforted by the presence of loyal guardians rather than praise. Mia traced her father's name on her plush, Emily's phone buzzing with texts from worried friends. The bomb threat inside the terminal faded, and relief rippled through surviving crowds. As police loaded suspects into vehicles, Ethan reviewed new evidence. Planning the next phase interrogation, tracking, searching every digital footprint the van left behind. The truth always defeats the shadows, but only when every link in the chain works together. Suspects, bruised and bitter, protested innocence. Forensic tech scanned drives, retrieved scheduled data, backtracked travel paths. Revenge loves confusion, planting seeds in the chaos after a crisis. Ethan and Coda paced the airstrip, reviewing every move, congratulating their team with quiet nods. The handlers, battered yet proud, read messages from families' thanks for protection, for calm under fire, for guarding the airport at its most vulnerable. Truth once again emerged victorious, but Ethan pressed on, knowing real peace only comes when every shadow is chased down and confronted. As night fell over Northbridge International, the story was far from over. Audio logs, digital trails, and suspect interrogations awaited. Coda, already tired, curled at Ethan's feet, sensing that the pursuit would only grow deeper. If you think these moments matter, where loyalty, instinct, and the fight for a better world intersect, on a runway hit the like or share button now. Sometimes your shadows only fade when the truth keeps everyone running in the right direction. With suspects detained and the airstrip slowly returning to normal, Ethan retreated to the command center, flanked by Coda and a digital forensics team. They unpacked the van's trove of encrypted laptops, forged passports, and surveillance equipment, a physical map of how revenge crosses borders, trailing not just shadows, but a web so complex it seemed to pulse beneath the surface. Homeland Security agents joined the room, their questions slicing through hours of adrenaline. How did they know your movement? What else have they hidden? Truth's chase was evolving, and Ethan knew that answers wouldn't come easy. Documents mapped flight paths for Emily, Mia, and Lucas, photos marked with dates, times, and GPS coordinates. The stalkers had tracked their every move, compiling data from hotel lobbies, security cameras, and social media posts. They weren't just after Lucas's data, Ethan muttered, examining a tablet full of coded text. They wanted leverage. They built their own version of reality from the shadows, brick by brick. For tech experts, passing encryption was routine. For Ethan, it was a reminder that revenge never operates alone, always grows, infecting every channel it touches. Technicians dissected the plush fox's transmitter, tracing its signals to offshore servers. The fox wasn't just a child's keepsake, was a Trojan horse for digital infiltration, deployed to intercept private airport networks and send out data packets in real time. Everything Lucas investigated was fed back to their network, said one analyst. Ethan traced these transmissions to a series of ghost accounts and dark web forums. "It's classic," he said dryly. "Revenge using comfort against its own victims." But as with every attack, truth was gaining ground. With each server flagged and each suspect interrogated, the scope of the global conspiracy narrowed. Emily and Mia were moved to a high-security suite, their safety now paramount. Ethan explained the next steps in gentle tones, promising vigilance. "We're not done until every shadow is chased from your trail." Emily, worn but resolute, nodded. "Lucas always said truth is a shield, never a sword. He just wanted us to have a normal life." In the background, Coda padded from room to room, sniffing out lingering traces of foreign electronics, an unsung hero whose instincts worked well beyond human logic. Revenge may build networks, but only relentless truth can break them apart. Suspects began to crack in interrogation. "We were paid just to follow, to watch, sometimes to take pictures." Their words arrived in fragments. The language of guilt is always indirect. Digital evidence spilled out. Encrypted phone logs pieced together the recruitment cycle, payments in crypto, threats made in code. Ethan coordinated with cyber teams, tracing links through embassies and shell companies. They didn't care what harm they did. They just wanted information, Davis murmured. "When you let your shadows run wild, revenge turns anyone into collateral." Rumors spread quickly. News outlets clamored for details. Parents hugged their children closer at news of the plot. Ethan refused interviews, redirecting all attention to his dogs. "Let the heroes have their rest," he told one insistent anchor. Across the airport, letters and gifts arrived for the K9 unit pictures, snacks, thank you notes. Mia drew a picture of Coda, her protector, taping it above the security office door. The world watched, but the real work continued behind closed doors. In high-security rooms, evidence was backed up, analyzed, and catalogued. Revenge, though battered, would likely regroup, but for now, truth shone through every channel, every hard drive, and every heart protected by loyalty. If conspiracies and their unraveling fascinate you, subscribe for the next chapter, and remember, sometimes only relentless teamwork across borders and beliefs can drive every last shadow out into the light. The footage from Northbridge International, 14 dogs forming a circle around a silent, wide-eyed girl, spread faster than any departure board update. Within hours, the video dominated social feeds, headlines, and talk shows. Commentators called them the guardians of Northbridge. Their actions examined frame by frame. Every tail wag calibrated by armchair experts. From crisp morning news to late-night interviews, the story wasn't just about an airport scare. It was about the triumph of truth over revenge, the courage found in loyalty, and the quiet, relentless work of heroes who walk on four paws, always posted just at the edge of your shadows. Ethan watched the delayed effect play out with awe and a hint of discomfort. He rejected interview requests, politely deflected offers for documentaries and awards. "Let the dogs have the praise," he always said. Meanwhile, the K9 unit moved back to their kennel, greeted by a flood of letters, hand-drawn cards, and homemade treats. Children sent sketches of Coda. Parents dropped off thank you notes. News anchors pleaded for heartwarming exclusives, but Ethan kept the spotlight in check. In moments when revenge tries to rewrite the narrative, keeping the focus on truth and real connection is itself an act of resistance. Public fascination turned active. Fundraisers launched for K9 organizations. Locals organized meet and greet events, flooding social pages with photos alongside the city's new K9 celebrities. Airport security, once taken for granted, became a badge of pride. People commented, "I'll never see a dog in uniform the same way again." The K9 handlers, uncomfortable with the overload, yet proud of their animals, fielded calls from schools and charities. For Ethan, the value wasn't in ratings or headlines. It was seeing strangers realize that sometimes protection hides in the most unassuming places, and that a little more vigilance, a little less cynicism changes everything. Behind the viral sensation, the reality was grittier. The team processed Alyssa's case files, coordinated therapy sessions for affected families, and reinforced security protocols. Techs ran drills in the terminal, training new teams with fresh urgency. Coda became a living legend, his quiet gaze now immortalized on badges and training manuals. If revenge haunts every shadow of public life, This moment proved that truth walks in, sometimes quietly, but always ready. It's easy to be cynical until you witness loyalty in action, until you see a child smile. Safe because a group of animals refused to ignore what mattered. As the emotional wave crested, Ethan gathered his team for one last debrief at the dim end of the airfield. Few words, most handlers just exchanged quiet nods, gratitude humming beneath exhaustion. They celebrated with pizza, water for the K9s south, and the kind of laughter only shared by those who've run toward danger, not away. Emails poured in from everywhere, survivors thankful for normal mornings, parents sleeping better tonight, young people asking, could I join someday? The biggest questions were about the dogs and their instincts about how revenge can be outsmarted when you trust something rooted deeper than training. In this pause before resolution, Coda lay at Ethan's feet, the most famous set of paws in the country, sniffing a card that read, "Thank you for being our secret hero." If this story has touched you, if you believe heroes come in all shapes and sizes, now's the time to act. Share it, comment your own story, and subscribe so you never miss how truth can change even the darkest routine. Support true protection. Be part of a movement. Because the only way to chase away your shadows is by spreading light and loyalty as far as you possibly can. 2 weeks after the world watched Northbridge's miracle unfold, the security suite felt less like crisis headquarters and more like a haven. Ethan, still carrying scars of exhaustion, led Coda through the echoing halls to the pediatric ward. The Hero-S badge winked from his collar, but the real reward flickered in his eyes, a light that only loyalty knows. Behind the glass, Mia and Emily waited, pale but recovering, surrounded by gifts, bouquets, and dozens of thank you cards from strangers, proof that truth creates ripples where revenge once cast shadows. The reunion was intimate and pure. Mia sprinted to Coda, burying her face in his fur. Laughing sound sharper, sweeter than any applause. Emily knelt with them, her voice shaky but bright, recounting how every message and every story shared had given them new strength. "You changed everything," she told Ethan, "not just our lives, but how people see safety, innocence, even hope." For Mia, words came in a rush. "Coda's my guardian secret. I feel safe all the time now." Ethan smiled, dropping to her level, letting Coda press close. The currency of healing is connection, built in moments no news recap can ever capture. Mia handed Ethan a shaky, handwritten note in colored pencil. "Tell Coda he's my hero forever." Ethan tucked it quietly into his jacket. No ceremony, no need. Outside, handlers greeted airport staff with a new reverence. Families waved to the K9 unit, and everyone moved with more care, more empathy. On every security screen, Ethan's team replayed the saga, not for pride, but to teach new recruits that truth, not ego, builds the shield no act of revenge can penetrate. The airport didn't just get safer, passengers noticed signs, reported oddities, shared stories about the dogs, and gave tips of the day to each other. echoing the spirit of vigilance the world had suddenly embraced. As routine quietly reclaimed the airport, Ethan watched Coda leg aside Mia's, knowing that the real legacies are always invisible, woven into daily life, sustained by everyday courage and stubborn hope. Emily hugged Ethan goodbye, her tears balanced by laughter. Mia sketched pictures for the entire team, each dog drawn bigger than the humans. Legends passed from memory to myth. The final parade of K9 South through the terminal wasn't grand, was subtle, filled with whispered joy and the kind of satisfaction only earned by saving what truly matters. Revenge and its shadows would try to return, but truth already had new allies waiting. Outside, the world buzzed with anticipation. New videos previewed deeper dives into the case, behind the scenes of Coder's training, unseen investigations, and the mysterious fate of Lucas Harper teasers that lit comment sections with speculation, promises, and excitement for whatever would be revealed next. Ethan closed out his shift, standing at the edge of the terminal, Coda by his side, both immune to spotlights but electrified by purpose. If this story made your heart race or your perspective shift, don't hesitate. Let your voice join the movement. Drop a comment, share with someone who needs it, subscribe, and activate notifications. The next adventure is already in the air, and only those hungry for truth and lasting reward can chase every shadow away. The truth isn't just victorious, it's viral, magnetic, and hungry for new stories. Are you ready to see what happens next?